Hello and Vanakkam. Abhishek and I are here to welcome you to the last day of DevSangamam powered by GDG and WTM Chennai. Over these days, we have had some great talks around leadership, machine learning, mobile, web, and open source development. But today, we have added some more flavor to the event. We have talks revolving around cloud and security.
Well, well. It's the last day, but thank you so much for introduction, Madhura. So you summarized it very well. Although it's the last day, but there are many more to come. As a community, we always strive to learn together and grow together. So, being the last day, we got some more exciting things. Okay, as Madhura stated, there are a lot of things that we will learn today, and so let's get started with our first speaker without wasting a time, with the Vandana Verma. She's here to make security easy for developers. She's so just giving you a little introduction about herself. She is the president of InfoSec Girls Community, OWAP's Global Board of Directors, and a chapter leader of OWAP's Bangalore. So without wasting a lot of time, let's welcome her. So now handing over to you, Vandana. Okay, well, I feel there is a little technical glitch on the Vandana side, so we'll be back soon. Like, it's not gonna take more than 1 or 2 minutes, so don't worry, we'll be here as well. So before getting started exactly, I would like to share something with you all. Please share your experience with the hashtag mentioned in the slides, hashtag DevSangamam, hashtag GD Chennai and WTM Chennai. And do tag speakers if you feel like this is really going amazing, then please feel free to give a feedback over our social media. It really encourages us as well as the speakers. So stay tuned, just give us 2 minutes, we'll be back.
Hello, Abhishek, can you hear me? Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Let me get started with the session without any further delay. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see my screen. Okay. So, hi everyone. Today's talk is about DevSecOps or DevOps with security. People call it with a different name. Why and how we build with DevSecOps or DevOps with security. How it can be developer friendly, because we all know that when we start developing, we want to make sure that the code that we are writing that actually fits well in the production. So, before we deep dive into the topic, let me introduce myself. I'm one of the global board of directors for OWASP. I'm running InfoSec Girls in India. Apart from that, I keep speaking at different avenues, keep learning from different people. Right now, I am here today for GDG to share knowledge and then learn from all the other speakers that we have. And this conference is running from past 1 week, and it's really great to be here. And I'm glad. So, before the advent of DevOps, which we call it as development operations, and we've been hearing this term for over 12 years. So, organization executed the product security checks at the final stages of software development life cycles. We had to go through the whole cycle, and then security used to get tested, and like it used to be like step by step process, and then in the end, testing will happen. The whole thing will be there, because the focus was predominantly on application development. That application has to look good the way we want it and the way the client wanted or whosoever has requested for it. But by the time engineers perform the security checks, the product would have been passed the whole cycle. Now, which means if there's something which will be found, or any bug that will be found, or a vulnerability which is a security flaw that would have been found, that has to go through the whole cycle back. And if you don't know, or if you know that if we fix the bugs in the later part of the cycle, it takes much more effort, much more money to fix that bug. So, not surprisingly, patching became the preferred fix. Like, okay, let's just patch it. And also, security was viewed as a gut feeling or a roadblocker at that time. Okay, because now if it's tested at the end of the life cycle and there are so many bugs, especially critical or high bugs, security would generally stop the go live, or all those things can create a problem. Now, what shall we do if that's the case? Because when we talk about security, security cannot be afterthought. If something happens to our organization, who would be blamed to? Everyone. Whose job would be at stake? Everyone's. So, what came into picture from SDLC, from waterfall model, or all the traditional models, we moved to agile or DevOps way. What is DevOps? DevOps is the modern way of delivering applications faster and with high quality to meet the needs of the business, because now we are developing, or we are doing the iteration at a very fast pace. Almost, I remember that there are companies who are doing multiple sprints in one day. There are lots of application features which are going on production in one day. So one day is like a very short, tiny miny period of time. So the need for DevOps emerged from a common organizational anti-pattern of siloed development and operations organization to more agile way of working. So now, when we talk about DevOps, it's like a classic duo: make more changes and don't make more changes. So, what shall we do in that case? Now, the talk is around DevSecOps, wherein we are fitting security in between, wherein DevOps have started working together, Dev and Ops, because earlier the problem was then Dev and Ops were siloed, they were not talking. Now, they are talking, but how to let security also talk to them, because it's not always that they have to come and speak with security team. Security also has to take a step further and talk to them. So lot of security researchers think, or even I used to think at one point of time, that the role of today's software developer has become multifaceted. So they're doing a lot of things and security is just cleaning the mess, which is not the case. And what generally security team used to think, Now the shift is happening. We are talking about all shifts which is happening left, and the cultural shift. So now the security is not an afterthought, but there is still something which is called blame game, which is happening. Development team focuses on delivering new application as quickly as possible. Operations team wants to make sure that operation runs smooth, and they're working on stability, reliability, with less thought of speed of delivery sometimes. And application security team primarily focusing on reducing the risk. Now, when all of them have different understanding, different work, it is it sometimes becomes cliche that how shall we resolve it? If there is a bug in the production and people get to know who did not fix the bug, who did not find the bug, who did not check while it was going to the production. So it becomes a blame game. But when we talk about the organization wants all of the three to work together because we all have the same goal. We want to make sure that our organization has the best of applications, the production runs smooth, the applications stay available for the people to use, and at the same time it is not getting hacked. Even though hacking is inevitable, but then we all can work together and reach to a point that we can safeguard, we know that what's there in the organization. So what do we really need? That we all have to work together in collaboration. But there are different definitions that people give. So I have my own definition of DevSecOps or DevOps with security. So integrated security practices within the DevOps processes, wherein DevOps is running smoothly, how to integrate security silently in it. So we can say that silent security, but then people know that okay, there is a security portion to every part to it. And that's when we talk about culture change, that's when we talk about automation. Now, when we are integrating security into it, we are taking a left shift. We are starting from the very beginning of the life cycle and going till the end. So security becomes an integral part of the whole process. Even not just the SDLC we talk about, but it becomes part of the culture, it becomes part of the people, process, technology, everything. It starts from the training. Like, how do we train people? When development, operation, and security has to work together, they all need to know. Okay, security needs to know what development is working on so that they can help them. Development needs to know what operational challenges people are facing. And similarly, developer, if they understand the security and they write the secure code, it becomes even more meaningful. So I wouldn't want to emphasize that development and operation needs to know everything. I would say security need to educate them so that we can build a safer environment for an organization. Now, what are the core principles when we say DevOps or DevSecOps or we are adopting security? First, automation. But is it so important? Okay. Culture. Culture obviously is important. Without the right culture, we will be in trouble. And we can have the best tools. We can actually buy the best tools in the market. But if we don't have the right culture, people to use it, no, it's never going to work. It measure what's there in the organization and then build on top of it. Now, in the top, why I mention automation? Because automation is one piece which can help us to go on the production very fast. It can streamline the process. Sharing the knowledge that we have. Okay, if we don't know what's in our environment, we will never be able to fix it. I have seen that the bugs are there in the production for a longer period of time. Why? Because we didn't know that this was existed and we took a risk acceptance and we just left it there because we started working on something else. Now, why does it even all matter? Why are we talking about it? Why do we actually need it? So, in order to facilitate the rapid development, innovation, provisioning, security practices must keep up to the agile pace of the cloud era. We are all talking about that we need to move to cloud because we want to be more agile. We want to make sure that we can expand our services so fast, especially if it's a retail company and they have their loads running on cloud. They want to make sure they can, at the time of the sale, if there is a load which is happening on the server, there are servers which can expand. There are more services they can adapt to just in fraction of seconds. Planning cycles have become shorter with more frequent developments, deployments, and more iterations are required. Now, when those are required, we need to make sure we adapt to the latest and greatest technologies and reduce in time from build to deployment. As I said, there are companies who are deploying on a very fast pace. Like there are multiple deployments happening on production in one day. Could be 50 to 60. Now that's such a shorter time. So we need DevOps with security at the same time. Now, silos are being removed from development and operation team to align with the whole objective of an organization. Now, given the complexity of today's application and the adoption of new technologies, organizations need to take security that it's an integral part of software delivery. Because if we miss out on something, even one piece, the whole cycle will not be proper. And the breaches that we have seen in the past, that will keep happening. So, what shall we do? Now, when we have such complex applications, do we need to plan? Obviously, if we don't plan them, there will be problem. And DevOps encourages team to test early and often. And since security is an integral part of the testing activities, planning activities, organizations are shifting to left. DevOps pipelines and software flaws, we can in the software flaws in the DevOps pipeline, we can find it fast. And by considering all the risks and threats, a system can be architected and very well thought through when we are putting a plan for that. Checks can be put in place to measure the success of the design and help ensure that there is a compliance and security. And when we are planning, we can think, okay, is there something that might be missing? If there's a feature that is coming on, let's talk with the security team and understand whether there can be a security loop or there can be a security vulnerability. Now, the most successful DevSecOps implementation or DevOps with security implementation happen when security is not an afterthought. And developers do not have to think about security because it's imbibed in their own culture, way of working. And this isn't because they are not doing it or they're not thinking about security, but because they will not see it as unusual. If something is not unusual, we will do it the way we want to do it. Like the day-to-day activities that we do it in office or do it at home. They become part of our own lifestyle. So if the best way to get something done include the security steps, why would our team bypass it? We know that it's becoming a culture, an ethos which is imbibed in it. In the whole process, it will never be an afterthought. And when developers have always been working towards building a nice code, a nice application, we can't just straight away say that secure codely, secure codely. We'll have to educate them. We'll have to talk to them. We'll have to plan it out properly. Now, when we talk about code and build, this is the phase wherein security and component creation combine. It's where the benefit of shift left strategy with secure as code or all the integrations can be truly experienced. Getting real time feedback on vulnerabilities and code weaknesses. So, all this can actually help us get through all the challenges that we will face in the future. So, this is like when we are coding and when we are building it, let's talk it through. And imported code and components should also be checked for vulnerabilities early in the life cycle. So, there's something called software composition analysis. We've been writing code, Then people started writing secure code. Now, there are 96% libraries or third party components that we are using on our application. And this is not that I am just saying it, but there are research companies who have quoted it specifically that 96% of the code on the production or on the internet is the open source code or the code which is being used by our application. Now, when that's such a huge code, how about testing for all those third party components? If we don't find the bugs in third party components early, we are in trouble. If you've heard that there was one breach around 2017-18 because of Apache Struts older version, wherein company knew that there is an older version that they are using, or they might not be even aware. Could be some reason because they did not have a proper application, enterprise application library where they're maintaining the versions. And when there was a patch released, even after a month, the vulnerability still existed. And malicious attack vectors or malicious actors, they were able to get into the application, get into the environment of an organization, and play around with it. It was one of the biggest breaches of all time, I would say. One of the biggest breaches. And the company is still suffering because of that vulnerability. Now, I wouldn't want to name it, but because of that, people started understanding more the value of software composition analysis. That when we are downloading any of the library, let's make a note of it. Let's document it properly. This will help everyone because if something happens, like someone leaves the team, we will still have an environment. Okay, this is the version that we are using. How about updating the third party components? That will help early. Now, when we are talking about testing, what could be there when we are talking about testing? So, automated security checks should be featured during test and compliance check. Now, why automation? Because when we are doing 70 deployments or 60 deployments in one day, or even for that matter, one deployment in one day, we don't want to miss on any of the security section. So how about automating the security? There will be bugs that will be reported, but then we can fix it. We will make sure we take out time to fix it. It's not that the tool has reported there is a bug that has been created, but we are not fixing it. It's as good as not doing anything. So if we are imbibing the security, let's imbibe as an automation, because if there will be high or critical bugs, we will get to know. And there are comprehensive set of automated tests and checks which we can do in the pipeline so that we have continuous assurance with our applications. So now when we have automated checks, can we fine tune them? Absolutely, we can fine tune them based on our own necessity, that what exactly is the need of the hour. And not that now when we educate our testers and developers on how to automate the security tools in the pipeline, trust me, it do wonders. It actually does wonders. It has done wonders for me in the past, wherein one we didn't have it's not in my current role, but I've worked in my whole career I've worked in different portions. So at one point we were working with developers and they told us that no, we don't know about this tool. Okay, it's fine. If we start working on those applications and there's a small team, it'll be difficult. But how about start telling them, okay, this is how it can be integrated into the pipeline. It can be into automated in the pipeline. And if there's a bug, it'll be triggered to the Jira, like all the tools that developers use, testers use. If we are adapting to it, because security team has to adapt to what developers and testers are used to, it becomes more relatable for them. Okay, security is not trying to be a bad blood, but trying to help us out. So a good way to address all of that is by bringing together development, operations, and security teams in a series of iterative DevSecOps trainings, feedback sessions. Understand that if we have put in something in the environment, what could be the best way? The sessions can be led by experienced DevSecOps practitioners who share real world insight from their own experiences. or they can also be included, guided. There can be hands-on exercises that can be done, because if you experience real time, it becomes even more interesting, that okay, this is the way I can use. And during that time they can share their feedback. So collaboration between team members and different skill sets is crucial to secure developments or deployments. So we learn from our own mistakes and are better for having experienced them. Now, all the faults will occur, the bugs will be there, but if we have a blameless culture, it becomes more meaningful, that we have a safe environment where everyone is encouraged to innovate and explore new things. So cultural shift is happening. Why are we talking about cultural shift? I have talked about it, that we need to have culture shift. So everyone is doing their own bit. Developers want to have a secure environment. Developer wants to have a code developed. Testers want to have a good operation, or operation team wants to have the operation is running smooth. Security team wants to make sure that everything is smooth and there's no bug, there's no vulnerability which is there. So leaders should allow developers to make their own decisions, and it's always both ways approach, like a bi-directional approach, top down and bottoms up, wherein leaders are allowing developers to have a say, that these are the things, technologies that we should have. And there has to be some transparency, and barriers should always be broken between the leadership and the teams working on the ground. And if we both have in sync, that's one of the best organization. So leadership can be instrumental in eradicating all the silos between the different teams. They can bring together all the teams, because if they say that all of your team have to work together, teams generally work together saying that okay, it has come from the leadership and we will have to. So the top down approach requires the seniors and executive leaders to understand, support and champion the new approach, identifying that okay, this person can help the developers, this person can actually listen to them, so that person can be a buddy to them. So teams need autonomy, not bureaucracy. No one wants that. No one wants that. Okay, I am saying this and you have to do it. But instead, talk it out. Be with them. And on the same at the same time, bottom up approach requires getting deployment, development, operation, and security team to buy into new collaborative approach. Because if you have to go to the leadership to say, okay, this is what we want, you all have to be in sync first. If you all are in sync, executive will already be in sync with you, because they know that the teams are in sync. So having an executive sponsor or a senior champion helping you out, it is it is really helpful for an organization to build a safer environment. So everyone in the organization should have a say in the game, be it leadership, be it the development team, because development team will come up with certain tools. Now executive sponsor has to check whether they can buy in or not, we can go ahead with those tools or not. So if we cannot, we'll have to say upfront that we'll have to look for alternative. Similarly, if they suggest that it's not possible because of some constraints, budget constraints, or any other cultural organizational things, we'll also have to understand what best we can do. Another thing is that if I have to propose an idea, I built that idea using open source things and then propose, okay, this will be the impact. Because right now, when we are proposing something, we might not be thinking, okay, this could be the business value, because leadership always look at the business value. And it's imperative that we have to understand that's what they're working towards. And we also climb the ladders, and or we are in the leadership roles, so we understand okay, these are the things that we have to balance it out. So first, from a developer perspective or operations team or security team perspective, and then the leadership team perspective. So now when we say we have the buy-in, we have a right culture set in the team, what else we can do? We can make sure that first and foremost, that we need to have security as not an afterthought. But security has to have its own space at the same time. The most successful DevSecOps implementation happen when security is not like a second class citizen for the leadership or for the development or for the operations team. Because if we do that, then we would face all the backlashes, all the things that we have seen. Like it could be we could be part of the breach. And if we say that we are 100% secure, no, no one is ever 100% secure. There will be things lying in the system which we'll have to update, which we'll have to fix. So one of the most important aspect of DevSecOps is challenging the way the traditional security teams worked. So now we have to make sure we are working together. And actually, I'll tell you, we have always been working together. But it's just that now it's more close knitted. But we need more interaction. Like people have started doing on the Scrum calls or Scrum meetings, or when we are talking about that these are the issues that we are facing. How can we fix it? There are sometimes solutions which I have seen the development team proposes, which are better than that I would have done it, and that they're talking from the security perspective, which is amazing. Now, so a sound DevSecOps process interacts with multiple departments, assets, resource, and not just development operation security, but project manager, network team, tech team, or any other team who's part of the whole system. If all of the teams are not working together, if some piece goes down, the whole work will go in vain. So, security team is conditioned to work in silos in the past. Let me tell you, we used to sit in a separate corner, and then if there is an issue, we will highlight it. And then the teams used to be all scary and all fuzzy about it. Okay, security team has found the bug. Now what should we do? We are working on this section. How should we fix it? It used to be like a big problem. So, what we did, we started helping the teams with automation. And that's when I mentioned the automation on the top. That why not automate the processes? And if something is found, it can be reported as early as possible. And it's going to only help us. So, what can be the thing is, once we have automated the task, security team can actually help in fine tuning the tools so that we don't waste anyone's time. Insist if the build break, if a large security vulnerability is introduced. So now, why fail build and when to fail a build? When we found a high bug or a critical vulnerability. If we have attained the maturity level 3, like there are different maturity level. When we are just starting off with the DevOps processes and we start failing the build, oh, we will never pass the pipeline, or we will never be able to complete the whole pipeline. We will never be able to push the code. How about when we have a maturity in the system, and when we are maturing, then start failing the build, or pass the build but then report the bugs. And when the bugs are being reported, make sure we have a time to fix them. Now, secure code training is at the same time important as so it's as important as it for the security people, and it is important for the developers. Why? Because they are writing the code. They know the code better than anyone in the world. They know that these are the libraries that they have called. How about giving them a platform, giving them some kind of a checklist? Okay, these are the things that we think that we should be checking when we are writing a code. This is how input validation is done. There are third-party libraries which can help in validation, output encoding, and many more features. How about calling those libraries? Or telling them this is a code snippet which can help in writing random secure iterations. If we have an error, we can do that. Or we can actually say this is how validation can be done. This is how we can actually specify some characters. This is how parameterized query can be used to avoid SQL injection or injection in the database. So successful program starts with people and culture. and team needs to build their own champions. There's something interesting that when I was working in one of my role where we started that building a bug bounty program. So bug bounty is like there are teams doing hackathons, finding the bugs in their own code, or there is a code that's been given to them without telling that which application it is, and they finding the bugs and telling how to fix it. Trust me, there's nothing more rewarding than that, wherein they're finding the bug and they fixing it that time. It's more of that rather than doing the mundane work, they're able to do something interesting, something which can give them motivation, because that is very very important. So, what else we need? Do we need something else? So, can we empower them to make their decisions? So, can we create, when we are empowering them, can we create security champions in each team? So, I have been working with multiple teams, and in my past experience, when I was very closely sitting with developers and operations team and project managers, being part of the Scrum call, at the beginning, I have missed a lot of Scrum calls. Why? Because it used to happen, and then there was one point wherein they did a call early because half an hour call early because they were like, okay, security team will come and raise the concerns, and we would not be able to complete our call, and they'll have a lot of questions. But suddenly, over the few months, we all realized that we all have to come together. Now, whenever there used to be a new feature, someone from the team will call, okay, now we are going to have a call in half an hour, 1 hour, you should also come. So that person became the security champion. So there used to be one security champion who understands security, who can help other people understand the security. So we started creating champions from each team. And when we create champions, we can sponsor them for giving trainings and getting the trainings. Now we get, as security researchers, get the trainings which are required from for understanding the security. But how about they getting the training and we sponsoring them? It's going to actually act as a cherry on top of a cake wherein people are helping us. Now we have buffet at one place. Now it's our responsibility to pick and choose what we really want on our plate. And especially for an organization to work, we need everything at one place. The point that I was talking about, cross skilling. Cross skilling is equally important. Like development team telling the security team, this is the environment. Now when this is the environment, we know that these are the project bases that are there. How about understanding that those project bases can be vulnerable, or those portions or third party components could be vulnerable, and if there's a bug that comes up, we will let the development team know, okay, this is a critical bug that we have to fix. Can we take out some time, or can we plan to get it fixed before someone else finds it? Trust me, cross healing is one portion which really, really helps. And similarly, it becomes even more collaborative. How about empowering, like empowering them instead of blocking them? If they are telling that, okay, right now there is a problem, or this is not a bug, you explain that this is a bug, but you let me know that this is the solution that I have. How about they telling, okay, this is the solution you are telling me, but can we do it this way? Sometimes people give really nice solutions which we don't expect. As I said, that it has happened with me in the past, wherein people were telling me that these are the solutions that we can apply, and they were really amazing, and those practices were amazing. How about inviting them to the parties? Not just the virtual parties wherein we're just collaborating, but the actual team parties when, okay, now we are meeting, and this is a security team introducing to the security team, okay, this is a development team, this is a development champion that we are working with. And how about working together, sharing our thoughts, connecting with each other? So why do we even need? Because we have continuous build, we have to make sure that there is a continuous cycle, we have a proper metrics build. Now we are talking about containers, Kubernetes, everything. How about scanning them continuously, scanning their images continuously? That's also becoming part of the whole life cycle. Also, there are a lot of open source tools. If you can't afford the open paid tools, there are a lot of amazing open source tools which can help us. Now, just not in the development, but scanning the container, understanding the whole architecture, orchestration. So this is how the sample DevSecOps architecture look like. Like I've talked about different phases wherein we are using different hooks which are available and being part of the code repository, pre-build, post-build, staging process. We are integrating the whole security in each cycle. And when we are finding the bugs and reporting it, how about putting in a repository which is easy for developers and testers to understand? It can be anything which they are using day in and day out. If they are using a code platform for checking the code, pushing the code to development, how about integrating that with the automation and then adding security to it? Just, I'm sure there are multiple ways to do that, and we all can work together and find that. So this is about the talk, and you can reach me anytime on Twitter. I'm available on LinkedIn. I'm sure if you have a feedback, I'll be more than happy to take it. And if you have if you have questions and you can't ask me today, feel free to drop me a DM note, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. Hello. Thank you so much. Let me stop the screen sharing. Yeah, hi, sir. Hi.
1 second, my bad. Okay, yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So, I mean, thank you for your talk. It was really insightful because nowadays, see, the moment DevOps came in process, the security process has to be improved a lot because there is a lot of difference between what we used to do as a traditional, life cycle development for an app, whereas now DevOps came in. So, like, pretty much you covered a lot of good points. I do have few questions, but I'll take that later. So let's have a look into the audience questions, what they have so far.
Sounds like a book Phoenix project. Let me tell you, this is one project which I really love. I have read through the book and it's amazing.
Okay.
Because Phoenix project covers a lot of things, truly.
Yeah, that's true. Like completely adapting the DevOps culture in your team.
That's right.
I'll just pick the questions for you. Just give me a moment.
Sure. How, as a security or ops or a dev person, we educate the other parties about the constraints and start working with each other? See, it has to be openly communicated. When we talk about security, if security team knows that there is a platform which is being used in the development or even for production, and there is a critical bug that has been come up, or there is a 0-day vulnerability that has come up, let's talk it out that we have to fix it and how soon we can fix it. And security team, generally, as a security team, I wouldn't want to enforce anything like you have to fix it. That culture cannot be there. Similarly, for development team, they can't say that we can't do it. Let's find a mid path and understand what is feasible and what is not feasible. Let's decide the timeline because it's for the betterment of the organization. It's not about development and security team. It's how we bridge together the pieces that we have. Like it's like a jigsaw puzzle that we have, and we are just fitting the pieces together. So we have to talk it out. Communication is the key. And there's something which I always emphasize when I talk with the teams, that if you have the people, if you don't have the right set of tools, things will not work. But if you have the right set of tools and you don't have the people and culture, again, it's of no use. So people, process, and technology has to work together.
Yeah, that's right. We have more couple of questions, and I feel because I was going through all the comments, like we got a lot of amazing questions. I'm gonna pick one by one. Here
Sure.
we go.
Okay, there are times when dev teams consider certain bugs as risk accepted because they focus on new features even though the bugs are important to be solved. How can they overcome in DevSecOps? See, there is one important thing is that sometimes dev consider that certain bugs are risk accepted, like accepting the risk. It's fine. It's completely fine that there will be things which we have to accept the risk. But remember one thing, that if we are accepting the risk, we define a timeline that in that timeline we are going to fix it, because there have been cases which actually I have seen that there was a medium bug, which we said that, okay, right now we are accepting it, we are accepting the risk, and we're going to fix it after 2 months or so. But during that 2 months, there was another bug which was critical, which was found on the same application. And due to that medium bug, uh, we did not make changes. It became a critical bug, which we couldn't realize. But as we were talkative, like we all teams were talking, we shared we shared our views that this bug was medium bug, even though it was risk accepted. Now it has become a critical bug, and those critical bug has to be fixed.
I hope that answers your question, Naveen. So next one we have from Suresh.
See, like if there is no separate DevOps and security team, which is in a way good also, because people has to know, because that's what DevSecOps says, that you should know every portion of the process. Like I know how we can develop a code, how we can develop the code, how Java is like, what all platforms are there, how I can write the code in Java. I specifically I specifically keep up to all the languages that are there. I try. Like I'm not the expert, but expert developer, but I can actually read through all the code. That this is how code is written. This is where flaw can be. So when there is no separate team, we understand every aspect and we try and give our best. That way, I would say. But yes, you can have always a third eye.
Yeah, like having a separate champion also would work.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll take 3 more questions because we are a little tight on time. So
Right.
here we go with one more question. Okay, this seems very interesting.
Oh, yes. So I was working on a project wherein we didn't have a secure code review tool. Now, if we have a security team of, let's say, 10 people, finding that scanning the code and finding the bugs, security bugs, and then getting them resolved wouldn't be possible with 10 people, because that's not the only thing that the team has to take care. There are so many aspects the teams has to touch upon. How about enabling the developers? So it took me good 6 months project. So I worked on a 6 months project wherein we automated the secure code review process. We educated the teams, because there were like 10 teams working in different parts of the world, and we had to have a call in different time zones, educate them, this is how it can be integrated, this is how we are going to automate it. If there's a file that needs to be removed or excluded, okay, this is how we're going to do it. If there is a risk acceptance that you are highlighting, okay, every week we used to sit with them if there are bugs that they can't understand. So now that came to a process that they became very much secure aware.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest challenges, that telling them it's very important, security is important.
So how long did it take for that entire project to take?
Over 6 months, because educating them about the tool, about the security practices, telling them that this is how we can fix it was time consuming, and then especially bringing them the whole world together from different time zones was another big challenge.
Okay. So I have one question on top of this, and after that
Yes,
we'll take
please.
one more question from audience. Okay. So on top of Bhavani's question, now I'm wondering. So as a developer, what we usually do is, any feature is added, we do a pull request. There is a team who does a code review. So this is like a usual process. So how can someone ensure that, okay, while doing a code review, there should be some aspects of security concerns, where like any template or any process that you would recommend to incorporate inside a code review process?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. I will say, so if you are a developer, you can actually create your own checklist, and you can review, because sometimes when we are writing the code, we keep reviewing, okay, this is how validation can be done. Now there is an input parameter from the user, and how about I validate that, and when I validate it, my application is secure. Now will that validation be affected in the second order parameters? And on top of it, now when you're writing the code, there will be a pull request that will be done, or there will be a team that will be reviewing the code. But before that, how about you having the same tool and you running that check first? So that's what was part of my project, that I enable you to have that tool rather than having a separate things and me pushing you that you have to use it. But how about I making that tool itself part of the whole cycle? Now you know, okay, this is the bug, and you will say that it's a false positive. I have to sit with you, understand that why it's false positive, and fine tune the tool. Because if you are saying that, you're working on ground. Understanding your perspective also is very important as a developer.
Sure. We'll take last question from audience, and it's
Please.
from Washi.
Oh, so can you explain an example of your own experience? So developers, when they become champions, they do wonders. Like I have best of my friends till now who are developers because they have been helping me with that what they are working on. So those security champions will tell you beforehand, before you even go to the Scrum call. Okay, this feature is going to come, so we can be well prepared. That this is how security can be imbibed into that feature. And as we are going into smaller deployments, we have to make sure that we have developers helping us with, okay, this feature is forecasted,
Sure.
what should I suggest? Now they suggesting the team that this is how security should be there, and then we will just be a helper at that time. And trust me, being a support system is also fine when the teams are doing everything and we are just helping them with fine tuning things.
Yeah. Yeah. So hope Urvashi that helps your, that helps you answer. So Vandana, like we had a lot of questions here. So so it's been a tradition in entire conference. Like we usually have a quick fireside chat with speakers. So since we already covered a lot, I'll ask you two more questions from like we have prepared from our team end. So like I just wanted to say like, are you ready? We're gonna have like quick question and answer round.
Okay, I'm nervous.
Okay, so everyone is like very curious to know how did you start with the security and why did you choose this as a career?
It was all serendipity. I did not choose it. It happened to me. And when it happened to me in my first job, I realized that this is something I really want to take it as a passion.
Mhm.
And when you take a passion, it is not your job. It becomes part of your own life.
Yeah, that was like quite inspiring. Like taking it with a passion. Yeah. So like the next question is very much related to the students and then the people who are fresh graduates. So
Mhm.
they always, so there are few folks like in from college time itself they want to go in security domain, but
Mhm.
then sort of mindset they have is like, okay, I gonna be ethical hacker or something related to that. So what kind of advice you would give to them, because still there is a plenty of gap. Okay, like
Mhm.
people don't understand what exactly they're in a security domain. So can you quickly take over those points, like what are the different domains you can opt in?
Mhm. Sure. So when you talk about that, I am going to be an ethical hacker. Ethical hacker is a very wide term. To be
Yeah.
very to be very candid. So when you are talking about being a security person, you need to have a good defending side also.
Yeah.
Breaking is easily. If you want to break something, it'll just be break. But then fixing it takes a lot of time. So understand different aspects. So you can go in network side, wherein you understand firewalls, networks, switches. So that's a network side. Comes the application side, understanding how an application is built. When it's in production, what are the kind of bugs that can be there and how to fix it. A good security researcher know how to fix things. Trust me, if you know how to fix things, nobody can beat you. And people, industry still lacks that. And that's when all of the things are moving towards defending side. And then you can be a database expert, you can be a DevSecOps professional wherein you're trying to automate things. You can be like anything you talk about, security comes into picture. Cloud, IoT, because IoT is booming up, cloud security is booming up. You can be a cloud security expert now. There are so many courses which are free of cost. There are so many cloud providers which are giving all the trainings free of cost. Just go ahead and get them. And especially when I talk about students have so much benefit. And I remember that I suggested someone about, so I'm not promoting any company, but GitHub has a student pack wherein you can actually create an application, break it, so they give you space to do all of that. And while using all of that, you can understand how an application is built, how I can write a secure code easily. So that is like interesting portion.
So yeah, so for the folks who are watching it live, you can also reach out to her over Twitter. And then if you have any question, you can tag her and then ask her. She would be happy to help. And it's a great pleasure to have you for this conference and introduce you to our community members. So thank you so much, Vandana. It's a
I'm
pleasure to have
really
you.
glad. I'm really glad. Thank
Thank you.
you.
So I hope you had a like a very mindful session. Like she covered a lot of stuffs. So we have a next speaker, but before going to that, I have this serious question for everyone, and it's really a serious question. So I have a like I always wonder like why can't a Golang developer stay? Like I'm expecting an answer because I've been searching for this, you know, from very long time. So if you can type in comments, that would be a great help for me. I have some things about that, and I would like to see whether I am thinking in the same perspective or not. Please keep your answers coming. Put your mean faces. Okay. Okay. Probably I should. I don't know. I just want to share my thoughts. Okay. Let's not waste a lot of time. But I guess it's because they do go. So jokes apart, well, it turns out to be a lame joke though. So we have here a one punch man of a DevFest in 2019, none other than Naren. So Naren is an independent software consultant and a Golang developer, and also to mention a master of DevOps pipelines. So I'm not gonna give any spoiler about his talk. So let's welcome Naren. Over to you, Naren.
Hey, hey Abhishek. Okay, cool. Is this thing on? Yeah, I'm I'm before crowd after a lot of after a lot of time. I'm showing myself before crowd. I think I'll just smile and wave. Hey everyone. So, yeah, that was a good introduction. Actually, that joke was my one of my lame jokes, I guess. Let me quickly share my screen and jump into these slides. I hope you're all having a fine weekend. Okay. So, welcome to the talk. And yeah, that's kind of a vague title, but soon I'll explain what this talk is about. Before that, I'm Naren, and I'm an independent software engineer. I work for both enterprise as well as startup clients. My work mostly involves around stuff like backend software architectures and infrastructures to some extent. So that's my Twitter handle, and you can tweet at me. You can tweet at me or follow me, and that's my email. If you have any official requests like consulting or freelance gig, you can reach out to me. Yeah. So before I get into the talk, I just want to show you this quote. It's a favorite quote from my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson. The most important step a person can take is not the first one. It's the next one. It's always the next step, right? So there are so many communities and people out there to motivate others to get into software, right? So uh, it's fairly straightforward for you to start programming and get your first programming job. But taking next steps in that is not so straightforward because there are no set of rules to follow, and each one have their own uh, passions and goals, if you call it. So So I'm going to talk about a few lessons I learned from my personal experiences as well as the books I read. So let's jump right into the talk. The first thing you need to know is career capital. I don't know how many of them heard of this term, but it is career capital is similar to your financial capital, which you gain from your investments, right? So career capital is the skills and value you accumulate over time. And as uh, as a software engineer, you need to find your career capital and start accumulating it brick by brick. For example, if you take writers, their career capital is they have one of the most their most valuable career capital is make sure their writing is pleasing to the readers. And financial, just like in finance, all capitals, if you need some gain from the capital, you need some sort of investment. You need to start investing in your time and energy to accumulate some valuable skills. So let's see how you can invest and how you can grow your skills. So your skills and values you hold, it should look like a splash of paint on the wall, right? I think this might sound vague, but this slide will help you understand better. So, so yeah, this is how your skills should look like. If you need to start breadth first, and you need to start expanding your skills slowly, so that you will know more than one tool, so that you can pick up the right tool for the right job. I should always remember that if you know only how to use a hammer, and every problem you see will look like a nail to you. And you should not just stop with your shallow knowledge in with a lot of breadth. You also need to go one level down and explore more in depth. So so you might understand how F1 engine works without understanding how a two-stroke engine work, but you really can't uh, tackle the problems and maintain an F1 engine if you really don't understand how a two-stroke engine works. That's why you also need depth first approach, and these two complement each other. So we'll see that. So just you start expanding your skills breadth first, and it will help you to increase your odds of success. So luck is just another word for increasing odds of success. Being at the right place at the right time won't happen by itself. You need to increase the odds of opportunities that comes along your way. And every skill you acquire in your wall of skills, or the wall of paint which I showed you before, it will just increase the odds of success. And you can combine two or three small skills to explore new opportunities, which is again increasing your opportunity, which is again will be increasing your opportunity as well as your odds of success. Oh man, it's so weird to give a talk without audience in front of me. All right. So yeah, if you take this simple math, if you have like three skills or three tools, and the unique combination is six. But if you have seven skills, or if you know about seven tools and how to mix and match and use them, the unique permutation or combination, whatever you call it, is 5040. Right. So the more you expand the skills you can offer to someone, the more opportunities you'll get. You should understand that like everything compounds, right? So your career capital, which we spoke about, or which we are talking about, it compounds, and your network compounds, your coding skill compound. And the only way to understand and see the result of compounding is staying calm and being patient, also putting in the work. So for example, if you take networking, you spend a lot of money and go to a conference and you give a talk, or you meet a lot of people and do networking, and you won't see the results right away. It will feel like you're put in a lot of effort, but you're not seeing the results right away. But compounding won't work that way. So all of your networking efforts, you will be able to see the gains only after like 3 or 4 years. It depends, but you get the point, right? You need to stay calm and be patient so that your network, your skills, and everything compounds. And expanding your skill breadth-wise, it not only allows you to learn more, but also you will learn how to learn things faster. So the more you know, the more you can know. You also need to know this term called adjacent possible. I'm not sure how many of you know about this. This is something which is used by scientists. They define it as the space in which most of the big ideas and discoveries happen. So if you take in your career or software, it's the space beyond the boundaries of cutting edge where opportunities open up and big ideas tend to happen. So basically, uh, since we know that big ideas happens in adjacent possible, and way to explore adjacent possible is going to the cutting edge of a tech. Apart from the breadth first exploration of your skills, you also need to have the depth first one, which means the more you go deeper into some tech stack which you're curious about, the more opportunities you'll get, or you'll be having the more adjacent possible space where new big ideas or new opportunities spin up. And adjacent possibles are also done by adjacent possible spaces are also uh, created by combining two or more small skills. So for example, say that you're good at programming, and after a year you started working for a remote company, and now you become good at programming as well as good at communicating, and the next year you can go for a remote freelancing. That's what a freelancer is expected to do. They need to communicate very well, and they need to do their work. So you can combine small ideas to get a bigger one. One more example is you can combine small skills to get into a bigger opportunity. One more example is the creator of Dilbert comic. He's Scott Adams, and he was average at few skills. He was average at drawing, and he had some experience in IT and management and stuff. But when he combined these two skills, he created an awesome comic called Dilbert, and it's still out there, and people still like that. So developing career capital is not a very short process. It's kind of a very long process. So I'm sure you know about the 10,000 hours rule, right? So if you need to master in something, you need to put in an effort of 10,000 hours. So it takes just 20 hours to learn something new, but it takes 10,000 hours to master something. So you need to try to prefer systems over the goals, because systems works in the long run. And if you're having a system which aligns with your personal energy, that helps you to form great habits, right? So, and goals are for futures, and future is always uncertain, and your goals will always be moving. You can't have a fixed goal, but you can have a system where you can tweak it and make it work to get desired results. And if you have a systems mindset, like you won't stop when you fail, because I've already applied the system, and all you need to do is just tweak it and keep applying more and more. Every time you apply a system, it's a win for you. It doesn't matter whether the results fail or you didn't get the results or you got the results. So let's see what's let's see some systems versus goals mindset. So if you take finance, if you have a goal of increasing your asset to X amount, yeah, if you want to increase your asset to X amount, it is a goal. But investing and saving every month upfront is a system. And in fitness, you're increasing your muscle mass or participating in a race and winning it. It's kind of a goal. But eating healthy and showing up to the workout is a system. And in your career, getting a dream job in a startup or the big companies you want is a goal. But showing up regularly to code and learn new stuff, that's a system. So in your say that let's take personal finance, and it's 2020, and it's a shit show. So you in 2019, end of 2019, you had the goal of uh, saving or investing X amount by into 2020, and increasing your asset by X amount in 2020. But 2020 happened, and markets are red. You can't save. People are getting laid off. So the thing is, if you had a goal, definitely would have failed, and it would have demotivated you. But if you had a system which is saving upfront, it doesn't matter how much amount you save. You can just save just $500 upfront every month, and still you're implementing your system, and your system is running. So take your system one step further and make it your identity. Right? Say in your career, if you have this, if you have a goal of working for a very big company, one of the companies in FANG. Uh, let's take a let's take two scenarios. So you work hard and you end up in the job. What happens now? And you will celebrate, yeah, and maybe party, but you will lose the thing that gave you this motivation and the direction and purpose, right? Then you have to start setting new goals, and maybe goals like getting a promotion in that company which you join, and stuff like that. But if you had a system and which was part of your identity, like I am a software crafts person, and no matter where I work, I produce good value and people will be ready to hire me, so it doesn't matter. So even if you get selected, you'll be tweaking the system and using the same system to progress in that company. And even if you don't get selected, you have applied the system, so it's a win for you. You'll be tweaking the system and keep applying it more and more. And talking about software craftsperson acquiring career capital, talking about software craftsperson, in order to acquire career capital, you need a craftsperson mindset, right? So a craftsperson asks what value they can offer to the work before asking what the work can offer them. Say that a carpenter who produces mediocre work, and they know how to use only one or two tools, and uh, people won't recommend them. So will you hire that carpenter, or will you hire someone who knows more tools and who knows how to pick the tool specific to the job and does an excellent work, not a mediocre one? I'm pretty sure you'll be hiring the latter, right? So if you want something, you need to figure out the price and pay for it, right? If you want good salary, you need to figure out what value you can provide for the client and pay them. So yeah, similar to carpenter, if you take software, the tools which you need to learn, that could be testing, writing clean code, testable code, test-driven development, or clean architecture. And also the most important thing is a craft person cares for their work. You need to take accountability of your actions, and you need to make sure you care for the work. And there's this simple Boy Scout saying that you you just leave the world better than you saw it. Similar to that, whenever you touch a code in a code base, you always leave better than you found it. And becoming a craft person is uh, it's not it's a kind of long term process, right? Since I was also talking about 10,000 hours rule and stuff. So you need to have some sort of system for that. And the system which you see uh, the system which you see everywhere, like from athletes to musicians who are mastering what they are good at. So they always do deliberate practice, and they stretch their ability and get immediate feedback and just keep this loop running. So if you take an athlete, they will train deliberately every day, and they'll try to stay consistent in their training, and they will every time they train, they try to stretch their ability beyond their current potential. So they'll take some measurement like heart rate or power or the distance or whatever it is, and then they set it higher and they try to stretch their ability. And whichever athlete or musician or whomever you take, they will always have some sort of coach to get immediate feedback from their practice. So without feedback, your skills will just, they plateau, you can't progress. So it doesn't matter whether it's an amateur athlete or it's Usain Bolt, everyone has some sort of coach to get a feedback so that they can incorporate that in their next session of deliberate practice. And similar to athletes and musicians, you need to, in software, you need to have deliberate practice. And picking up deliberate practice is right now it's easy out there because everyone knows there is something called 100 days of code. And the whole point of that, it's not building something meaningful, or it's not building a product or a project. It's about showing up daily, dressing up and showing up daily, and have a system for yourself where you sit for 1 hour and code. And every time you follow that practice, you need to stretch your ability as a software developer. And for that, you can explore different programming languages which you weren't comfortable at, or you can try to explore different problems of different complexities, and always get an immediate feedback. The feedback could be from your peers, your mentor, or even your employers in case of performance reviews. And you apply that to the deliberate practice again, and you keep doing this. So as you know, the whole point of investing is getting some gains out of it, right? So once you accumulate your career capital, you can start trading your capital to get gains. For example, getting more freedom or autonomy is uh, is more possible if you have some sort of career capital and value to provide to the employer or the client. So say that you need to start freelancing, and you need more freedom, and you need more freedom in your time, and you need to start charging people on hourly basis, so that people will respect your time and they won't just call in and drag in into your random meetings and make you sit like 12 to 13 hours per day. To do that, you can't. It's very difficult for you to do it from the day one, because you need to have something in value in order to give back, right? So the only way, or the only right way to do this is getting or accumulating the career capital. And while doing all this, it's a long-term process, and the most important thing is you might get motivated after people talking about it, and then you'll have this spike of energy after you see a tweet where they did some stuff. But motivation is kind of costly. You need to learn to embrace boredom. So dress up and show up daily and fall in love with boredom, because it's like motivation is so scarce, and it's like ignition to the engine. And you can't keep your ignition running again and again, and you will just run out of energy. So you need to keep your system going. You need to work like pistons, which does the repeat, which repeats the work again and again. So you need to embrace boredom in order to work like a piston. And while working on your system daily, you will get a chance to take small bets and get small wins out of it. And the important thing to notice, success doesn't like come right out of big success doesn't appear from nowhere. They always come after some small wins and small bets you take. If you take a small example where you need to apply for a very big conference, so instead of just applying there and trying to get your talk selected, if you have taken small bets by applying for small meetups and showing up there and talking there regularly, your proposal would be selected most likely, right? And even though by chance, if you don't take small bets, you might get your proposal selected in a very big conference, but the person who took small bets and who has small wins in their pocket, most likely they will perform better than the other one. So you need to stay fit for the job, right? You need your body and mind are almost same. If you take the athlete example again, every athlete in their training, they always have one day as a rest day during uh, every week, right? So also there will be always having some sort of off seasons in a year, and your body and mind, it works the same way. If you keep pushing yourself too hard, you're going to get burnt out. And trust me, burnouts are really nasty. You will start doing mediocre work, and you won't even know that you're getting burnt out. At the end of the day, people have to tell you that your work is so mediocre, then only you realize that you've been pushing too hard and you are burning out. So yeah, how much ever effort you put, some things, sometimes things won't work out, right? So you should always remember that you're always replaceable by your employer or your client, and you don't let that catch you off the guard. So be prepared and have a runway. I don't know whether you know about the term runway. It's the fancy term which startups use, uh, where they can run their business before closing down without any income or revenue. So you need to, as an individual, you also need to have certain kind of runway, so that when things mess up, you can just come out of the uh, place, and you can think about what to do next, and you can take a break and then proceed forward. If you can't shine somewhere, you can always shine elsewhere. This is something which is really important, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're working for Google, or it doesn't matter whether you're working for yet another stealth startup or unfamiliar startup. If you follow a system, and if you make that system a part of your identity, you are a software crafts person, either in Google or in a startup. And the thing is, there is no one size fits all approach, and you need to keep experimenting, and you need to keep failing forward. So the more you experiment, you will know what will work and what doesn't work. So people usually talk about all the conventional wisdom, where they had this true calling um, from one of their random dream, and they started being so passionate about the true calling, and they started following that dream. But it doesn't always work that way. So you grow passion at what you're good at, and to become good at something, you need some sort of system, and you need the craftsperson mindset, right? So the passion which grows, I mean, if you grow the passion like that by following a system, and being good at something, that always sticks to you more than just passion appearing out of nowhere and from one of your dreams or true calling. I think, yeah, so these are some references that I created the slides from, and so it's one of the good book is so good they can't ignore you. I would definitely recommend everyone to read this book, and it has this unconventional wisdom of how to. I won't say it's a wisdom; it's just some sort of information, whether you can put it to use and see whether it worked or not. And definitely, it worked for me, kind of, I guess. And there's also another good book by Scott Adams, How I Failed at Everything and Still Went Big. This book is like kind of his personal story, but you also learn a lot of lessons from his story and failures. And few of the things I also took from my personal experiments and failure. Of course, I don't have a book on that. So I guess this was a short talk. So thanks for attending, and you can always reach out to me on Twitter. So that's my Twitter handle. Yeah.
Hey, Naren. Yeah, that was actually a nice perspective of, like even I didn't know that you want to give a talk on this. So you completely took us to a different perspective. Really nice one. I really liked your talk a lot. So we are open for questions. So people who have question, please type in comment. Meanwhile, we'll pick one by one. So just a second. So we have a question from Vani. So if you can see on screen.
What's my adjacent possibles? Um, I would say when I started diving deep into programming languages and started learning about compilers, one of my adjacent possible was systems programming. And I always have this thought that like AI is going to take over the world, no code is going to take over the world, and one day people will be like, no more web developers. We need systems programmers to handle all the load behind the servers and create new kind of server architecture and custom servers and stuff. So that that's one of the adjacent possible, I might say. But I can't uh, give absolute ideas because I'm also still figuring things out, and I'm also still figuring out my adjacent possibles. But I think I let one of my adjacent possible secret out, I guess.
Okay. So we have a question again. I mean, it's like from a team itself plus this from the same person. One second. Yeah. This one is good.
So how do one know that they have gained enough career capital to start seeing gains? I think it's by only doing. So when you when you keep doing when you keep following that deliberate practice and getting feedback and stretching your ability, so you will definitely start seeing gains, right? So for example, if you want to write a blog post, just a super hit blog post doesn't come appear out of nowhere. So if you start writing for half an hour a day and every morning, and you will get good at writing, and you will get good at expressing your thoughts, um, and putting out into paper, and making it visible to the reader, right? So you will slowly start seeing that people are reading your blog posts, and people are liking your posts. People like your post because you are getting good at it, not because SEO is getting good after staying some time in indexed in Google or something, right? So that's how you know that you are gaining something out of the career capital, or you're
Okay.
getting gains.
So moving to our next question. Any suggestions on work, explore, life balance?
Uh, Work, explore, life balance is you can explore both life and work. So I'll talk about work-life balance. So um, it's yeah. When people talk about work-life balance, they always talk about the black and white part, where you always have to work for only 5 to 6 hours, productive hours, maybe 8 hours. But it's kind of it's it doesn't always happen, right? So for example, initially when you're trying to learn more things, you might need to put in more efforts, and you're dealing with a system where you can't provide enough value to that. Say that you're on a huge project, and it- they will expect more of you, and the system will expect more of you, right? So you need to learn new tech stack, and if you're learning that in your time, and obviously you are sacrificing your personal time, and this is sort of this is this also comes into your career capital, right? You're by learning a new system and new languages, you are accumulating a career capital, and after a few years you can just trade them for getting a job which has a better culture, and which has a better um, work life balance, and or you can go independent and you can work for just like 3 or 4 hours a day and charge by hour.
Okay, so we'll take one more question and then we'll move it to the rapid fire round. I'll take one more question. Okay, it's from Bhavani again.
I think both are kind of same. Experimental mindset and craftsperson mindset both comes into the growth mindset. So it both are kind of same, but craftsperson is something related to mastery. So when you need to master something, you need to follow some sort of system that aligns with your personal energy, and you need to uh, put in the efforts, right? Or whatever I talked about. So yeah, so it's kind of similar.
Okay. So there is one more question from the same person, and she's saying it's the last question from her side. So let's have it.
Also, a mental health routine. Lot of junk foods on Netflix. Don't ask me about mental health. Yeah, but
Does it really help?
yeah. Then I'll just work out for eating junk food. So no,
Probably
the
that.
thing is, mental health routine is taking enough breaks. Things happen, right? So there's always you start writing a blog post and you start blogging and you become so good at it. You write 1 or 2 blog posts every week, and suddenly if you go see every person's um, listing, there'll always be a year of gap or 6 months of gap unless their whole job is to write blog posts. So that because they always say life happened, right? So when life happens, you have to go through it. So it's no way going around it. So when you feel sad, take a day off or two. Feel sad, watch Netflix, and then
Actually, I was supposed to ask the same question, but yeah, you answered it like pretty early. Fine. So if you know, we have a small tradition. Like we have this Q&A round with speakers in fireside chat, basically rapid fire questions. So we got few questions for you.
Okay.
It might be a little awkward. I'm not sure though. So yeah, jokes apart. So like other than coding, what is the one thing you would prefer doing on a normal day?
Other than coding, I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, these days I'm just binge watching Netflix, but usually I'll work out, and yeah, I'll make sure I'll have okay, yeah, I'll make sure I'll have at least 1 workout session a day.
Okay. Okay. I hope we also get some motivation to do workout. So yeah, coming to a second question, it's gonna be a funny one, I guess, because I feel the same about it. So we know that you are a backend developer.
Yeah,
What are your views about front-end development?
so it's so hard, man.
It's so hard.
Yeah, it's so hard. I tried front-end development for a long time, and it doesn't just work in CSS, which it's like
Okay.
I can't figure out things. So yeah, it's like it's hard, and
It's hard.
front-end people are like so awesome. Yeah,
Just one answer, it's hard. Okay. So it's just only CSS or a JavaScript as well.
I don't think JavaScript, but definitely CSS and aligning things and stuff.
Okay. I see.
It's like
So we'll have 2 more questions and then we'll move forward. So I'll take so any tips, or like I would say rather than 2 or 3 tips that you would like to give it to a junior developers who have just started their career with respect to learning and as well as with respect to understanding what you experienced so far having a capital, career. Just 3 tips, not more than that.
yeah.
You explained everything, but
I think those 3 tips will come from the same slide. But okay, for a junior developer,
of
okay,
course not
first,
watching Netflix.
yeah. So the first thing is like you need to like as I said before, like you need to start exploring more stuff, so that once you become you will become curious at something, and you will know that you're good at that, and then passion grows out of that. So I would say you start exploring things, and also don't explore similar things, right? So one of the reason personally I didn't go for front end is I thought it will, that's a personal opinion, because I'm bad at front end. I would use this opinion to escape that. So I thought like totally trying out different stack will liquidate my skill so much. And if I'm working on similar things, backend infrastructure, backend security, backend engineering, or DevOps, those kind of things, it's all related. It's all tied up, right? So
Yeah.
I can always keep in touch with the other things, and I can always come back and develop my skill again.
Yeah. So I promise you this is the last question from my end as well. And after that we can wrap up. So apart from Go language, so first of all, why did you choose a Golang? And if you weren't doing Go, what would you choose?
I chose Go because I was exploring both Go and Rust, and I found out that Go is a bit Go. People are using Go more than Rust, at least in infrastructure, because of course Docker is written in Go and Kubernetes is written in Go, and everything is part of CNCF. So, and I thought I would go with Go. It's just, yeah.
What would be the
And
other
this was the
language if you
reason.
don't do Go?
If I don't do Go, the other language would be, of course, I do Python. So, but
That actually
apart from
saves my
that,
heart now. Okay.
I think it would be Rust. Yeah, there is no Go.
Okay, it's fine. So, folks who are watching the video, you can actually have a conversation with Naren. If you have any doubts or any questions, you can tag him on a Twitter and then ask the question. His Twitter handle is DudeWhoCodes. So, thank you so much, Naren, for coming here. And like, it's our pleasure to have you on our community. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. So, I guess we would like to take a little break. So I would say let's have some fun. And again, we are back with our icebreaker activity where the obvious game will be there. So let me start with that. Just give me a second. I'll just share my screen and then we can go with the icebreaker session. Okay, 1 second. You're done. Okay. So here we go again. So this time the format is also same. Now you must have become a pro in this. I thought you must be preparing for that, and that's the reason we did not change the game format so that at the end we know who is a real pro, okay, in this game. So let's get started with this. So same game. You have to guess the color of the portion where the question mark is there. So I'll be waiting for your answers. Keep commenting. So let's see who gets this one. Okay. Yellow. Okay, let me see that whether it's really yellow or not. So it's a product of Google, and I don't think so. I really need to tell a name. Fine. So I'll just show the answer right now. So it's a Google map and it's yellow. So that's right answer from Jagnesh, Suresh, Varsha. Okay. So let's move to next question. It's gonna be the same format again. Okay, you have to guess the color of the portion where question mark is placed. Okay, what is this? Actually, I haven't seen this, recently. Let's see who's throwing this. I'm pretty sure people who are driving, like who drive and the right, so they must be able to guess the logo as well as the color. It's blue. Okay. So the product is Auto, basically. So I'm not revealing the answer right now. I'm gonna wait for more 4 seconds and then I'm gonna reveal the answer. So it's a Google product again. Just to be clear, Android one. Fine, let's see it. Okay, so that's the right answer. I guess I saw a few answers with the blue, and it's an Android Auto. So yeah, the blue is the right answer. Okay, I really don't think I should say this thing because it's like really popular one. And if you have come to our meetups as well, you would have got a lot of pen drives as well. And this is a Google product. And so it's like people are using to implement a lot of algorithms to teach machines. Beyond that, if I say any word, you gotta get the right answer. So it's basically a machine learning platform that Google gives. So you have to just guess the color of the top third round circle. Yeah. I'm waiting for the answers. It's Google AI, and the answer is blue. Let's move to the next question, and I'm gonna take 2 or 3 more logos because we are a little bit tight on time. So like it's better to keep it aligned with our schedule. Okay, this is gonna be the easiest one. I am not gonna give any hint. If people don't know what this logo is, I would say it's a logo of a programming language which is called as Python. And the another hint would be it's a combination of only 2 colors, not more than that. Okay, you got an answer. Blue. Blue, that's right. So the answer is blue, which is actually a cyan version of that. Moving to our next question. This seems very interesting. So it's a Google product again, and you have to guess the color of that background, basically. So let me see how many of folks use it regularly. Okay, I see a blue answers again. Blue, okay. I'll just reveal it. It's red. It's a Google drawing, and the color is red. So I'll take 2 more logos, and then we'll wrap this game up. Okay, this one. I guess this should be the easiest one. I have used it a lot in my apps as well, and it's a Google product again. So you have to guess the color of that question mark ocean. Keep your answers coming, and if you don't know, like so this quiz has been there for like last week as well. So winners who will be there, they're gonna get some coupon codes, and I'm not gonna reveal what exactly it will be because it's gonna be a surprise for you folks. So we'll be choosing, top 3 winners basically for each day, and we'll be sending them some sort of gift card or something like that. So let's see whether it's blue. It's not blue, it's yellow again. It's a logo from Google Fit. And moving to a last logo, and after that we'll start with our next session. Okay, I guess I don't need any explanation for this product. We use it on a daily basis. And so if you ask me, I can actually close my eyes and then answer this question. What kind of color that is? It's red. Okay, what? Keep the answers coming, folks. So I'll count it to 3. 3, 2, 1, and I'm gonna reveal it now. It's yellow again. It's Google Street View, if you know it. So I'm just this is the last logo that we wanted to have. Also get a consolation. So we are getting a question from audience like, okay, people who have attended all 4 days of meetup also should get a consolation prize. Yeah, we would think of that, but we really appreciate that you have attended all 4 days conference. It really inspiring, and it motivates us to keep a session going. So thanks a lot, Ashutosh. We'll look into that for sure. Just once again. So I hope you must have seen our schedule. So what's after Ice Breaker? So basically, next part will be continued by my co-host Madhura Joshi, and she will be taking care of that. So over to you, Madhura.
Thank you, Abhishek. So folks, you've been so amazing and you've been so engaging. Keep going on, and let's move on. So our next speaker is a PhD student from University of Oxford and a lead of partnerships at Open Mind, with the skills of great leadership and interest in medical imaging. Her talk revolves in privacy preservation in medical imaging. Let us all welcome Emma. Over to you, Emma.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, there, great. So thank you for the introduction. I'm actually going to be presenting some PowerPoint slides. So I'll cut my video just because my internet might not be strong enough to do both. But then for questions, I'll put my video back on. So if you just bear with me 1 second, I will share the screen. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, just a second, sorry guys. Trying to present. It's not quite working. Reloading this, just a second. Okay, does that work? Okay, cool. Okay, so hi everybody. Yeah, I'm Emma. I'm a PhD student at Oxford and OpenMind. And that's an open source community that you can all actually be a part of. So my PhD is actually more about medical imaging. I focus on MRI, but today my talk will be more focused on the work with OpenMind. So I do research in medical imaging, and when we research medical imaging, we're often working with very limited data set sizes. So a lot of us can't use methods like deep learning because, I mean really, really small. For example, the data set in my most recent paper was 11 subjects. So there's a movement in so-called open science where we often talk about data sharing and open data sets. And I think that that's a really, really great solution, especially if the data is about bacteria or plants or animals, for example. But we also know, oh, hello?
Yeah, Emma, sorry to disturb. Your slides aren't visible to us.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So what do you see?
As of now, I don't see any slides.
Okay. Let's see. Let me try again.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what if I do this? Okay, can you see now? Can you see my screen? Okay, wow. Okay, perfect. So if I go like this, can you see that?
Yes, awesome.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thanks so much for interrupting. I'm glad you didn't just let me do the whole thing.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So you didn't miss anything interesting on the slides. It's just this. But yeah, but you could hear me, right? So I don't need to start from the beginning. Okay. So anyways, so that could be a really great solution to make big open access data sets, and especially if the data is about bacteria or plants or animals, right? But we know that we need to be a lot more careful when it comes to human data. And this is because you often can't really anonymize a data set. So it's a lot more than just your name that can end up identifying you. And a really good article by Bruce Schneier, he talks about half the US population is likely identifiable just by their gender, date of birth, and their city. And also, data sets can be combined and linked with other public data sets. I mean, there's so much data out there about us right now, and this makes them even more easy to de-anonymize. So if you want more information about that, you can search linkage attacks, and a really famous example is the Netflix linkage attack. So you might think, okay, we'll just remove age, sex, and location, right? That kind of data. But it's also unclear what kind of information can be extracted, especially using neural networks, from seemingly anonymous data. For example, you can predict age and sex to a 99% accuracy and age to a about 2-year accuracy, just from a structural brain image. So this is actually how I got into OpenMind, because I was working on age prediction from brain images in the UK Biobank data. I was working with this group that you see in this slide, and I was just shocked because I just didn't expect that there was that much information hidden in these images. So you can also be identified by your heartbeat. And there's also a field called DNA phenotyping. And this is where your height, weight, voice, age, sex, and face, and ancestry can be inferred from your genetic profile. So your actual face can be inferred to, as you guys can see, a pretty accurate degree from your genetic profile. And the thing about our healthcare data is once it's out there, you can't get it back and you can't change it, right? Like you can't reset your heartbeat or your genetic profile like you can maybe a password that's leaked or a credit card. So as you can see, the data that we often want to do science on is sometimes the same data that can identify you. So if we want to make, big data sets and share it with each other, stripping it to anonymize it isn't really a solution. And just in case you're wondering, who is even trying to attack healthcare data, who even cares, you can check out the website Information is Beautiful. And 41 million health records were stolen in 2019 alone. And just last week, Babylon Health had an exposed data leak. That's a healthcare company in the UK. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So for a lot of reasons, obviously, not all data can or should be put into a big open access data set. And this is obviously very unfortunate. But fortunately, there are some popular privacy preserving techniques that we can use instead because, medical researchers aren't the only people wanting to work with private data. So next, I'll just briefly explain. I'm going to assume that the audience doesn't know anything about these techniques. So I'm going to do a really simplified explanation to give you a feel for what we're talking about when we mean privacy preserving technology. And obviously there are a lot more than this. And also the techniques can extend very deep into cryptography. But for the sake of understanding the libraries that OpenMind is working on, this is a really good start. So the first is federated learning. And this allows us to train on data that is stored elsewhere. So a hospital, a phone, or another university server. So this works by instead of copying the data and moving it to me, I can send the model and train it there. And then I only send back the weight updates, okay, not the personal data. And this can be repeated across data sets in various hospitals and servers. And this solves one huge problem, especially for those of you who are developing apps. You're probably familiar with federated learning already. It means that the data doesn't need to be copied and sent everywhere just to perform computations or stats on it, right? And that's a huge step forward because as soon as you copy data, you lose control over that. If you want to know more specifically about federated learning in healthcare, you can just have a quick Google, Intel, NVIDIA. A lot of people are jumping on that. And of course, this is used in your phones. But sometimes models can memorize details about the data that they've trained on, and then they can leak those details later on. So I've just put two famous examples here. So one is a famous inversion attack, and they reconstructed the face from the training data, as you can see here. Another famous example probed a text predictor with my social security number is ... And the social insurance numbers were leaked from the training data set. So this is where some other techniques can be handy. One is differential privacy, which you may have heard of because it's really growing in popularity. And this is a framework that allows us to make formal mathematical guarantees around privacy preservation. So it's actually like a mathematical definition of what perfect privacy would be, and allows you to quantify privacy. So in a very, very simplified example, if I have my data set DN and I perform a query, so let's say I look at the average age of those people in my data set, perfect privacy would be if the answer to that query didn't change if any one subject was removed. So in the data set DN-1. That's a bit of sometimes that can be hard to wrap your head around. But as you can see, what this means is that my query wouldn't expose anything about that person. So that's perfect privacy, but obviously in practice, things can be different. So to come closer to better privacy, there are many methods that you can use. One is using a controlled amount of statistical noise, and so that you can obscure the data contributions from any one individual, right? So as you can probably guess, this ends up coming down to a trade-off between better privacy and keeping your data actually useful, because too much noise can obviously make your data meaningless. And if you're wondering, okay, how do you add noise while keeping the data actually meaning anything? I loved this one example, and it's a coin flip example. And again, this is just a toy example, but I think it explains the idea of individual deniability and adding controlled noise very well. So for example, if I wanted to poll you all right now about something very sensitive or private, you can use your imagination for whatever that would be. If I just asked each of you the question and recorded that, maybe you wouldn't even tell me the true answer in case it could be worked back to you, right? Like, what if you were worried that you were maybe the only person to say yes to that question? So instead, what if I gave you a coin and I said, go over there and flip the coin, and if it's heads, tell me your true answer, so yes or no. And if it's tails, tell me the answer on the second coin flip, heads for yes, tails for no. Okay, so see, now what you know, since a coin flip is a 50-50 split, I know that I've added a 50-50 split to what my true result is. So then I can later remove that 50-50 split to find the real stats about whatever I was asking you guys. But I can never work back to any of you who said yes or no, right? Because all of you have a probable deniability, that you can easily say, oh, I just got tails and put the answer on the second coin. I don't really, my answer isn't really yes. So I get my stats, and then you get to keep your privacy. So I really like that example because it helps you kind of see a really simplified example of quite a complex topic. And there's a lot more on this, and if you are interested in more, just have a quick search on differential privacy in healthcare. And finally, encrypted computation, which there are many techniques for, allows computations to be done on data while it remains in an encrypted state. So there's homomorphic encryption, and there's also secure multi-party computation. For the sake of this talk, I'll just do a really very simplified explanation of secure multi-party computation. So here's an example. So in this example, we have Andrew. This is the leader of OpenMind, and he's holding his number. So let's say his number, this is his personal data, 5, okay? And he can anonymize the data by turning it into 2 or more numbers. So for example, he can decompose 5 into 2 and 3, because 2 plus 3 equals 5. Okay, so now that number can be split among different parties, and any operation can be performed on those numbers without the agreement of all of them. But if they want to give the actual operation, so for example, what would Andrew's number is 5, what would 5 times 2 be? That would be 10. But apart, the other parties can calculate that, and only Andrew could then decrypt the final result. So Andrew gets his answer, the other parties perform the computation, and Andrew's number 5 can never be worked out by them. This is a very, very toy example, and real multi-party computation protocols are a lot more complicated than this, but it's just a little toy example to wrap your head around it. And if you want to know more, there's a lot being done on this, especially around medical data. So if you're worried about how on earth you're going to learn how to do all of this, I don't expect you all to become privacy and cryptography experts. I mean, if you are already, that's fantastic. But don't worry, because basically there's a organization called OpenMind. It's around 7,000 people on the Slack. I think we just hit 8,000 yesterday. But a few hundred contributors, and I think around a little over 100 people meet every single week. And OpenMind is making free open source libraries that largely take care of these techniques for you. So if you go onto the OpenMind website today, there will be several libraries that would help you implement what we've just talked about. PyDP would be one that is it's wrapped Google's differential privacy library to make it, that's a C++ library, but they've wrapped it with Python and several other languages to make it much easier for you to actually implement. There's also PySift, and PySift is one that I think will be particularly interesting to you guys. So PySift extends PyTorch and TensorFlow, but that's still being worked on, so that you can perform operations on tensors. So for example, you can train or test a model, or you can calculate some statistics without ever moving the data, and in a privacy-preserving way. And you can then do it in Python from your Jupyter notebook. So as you can see, basically PySift makes federated learning much, much easier. It puts it into a framework that you already know. So if you already know PyTorch, learning PySift is a very, very small step. So I'll just add another bit from our perspective as like a healthcare researcher. Why would these be useful for us? So the first step is obviously more data. And if you're trying to do deep learning, that's a very obvious first step. But actually what I'm more excited about is that if we can have access in a privacy preserving way to data, we can actually access more realistic data. So we've all seen news stories come out where like another big company often has an AI healthcare flop as soon as they try it on real patient data. Google Health had this, I think, just recently with retinal scan data, and IBM Watson's was a very, very famous flop. And obviously, when we're in research, we want to build tools for real patients, and a company wants to build tools for real patients, not hypothetical patients. And I think that you guys would be really shocked to know just how many people have to use hypothetical, basically generated data to train, because it's just very, very difficult to get enough data to use any sort of deep learning method. But also, even if you're not doing, let's say, a product that is going to be eventually deployed in the clinic, we do research on this data, right? And then that research affects what science says is true, and the whole entire scientific field. But the problem is, especially in neuroscience, people from Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic societies, so the acronym is weird. That's what the American Psychological Association has coined it. Honestly, that's 80% of the study participants in our papers, and that's only 12% of the world's population. So not only does that not represent humans as a species, but it's an outlier, right? So basically all of our psychology research is based on these outliers, and the outliers are often young white university students, because I've participated in a lot of studies in my undergrad. You get paid a little for them. They're kind of fun. Yeah, and maybe your friends are in the research, so they say, "Oh, please come and volunteer for my study." And what does that reflect? It just reflects what a bunch of young university students' brains are. It does not reflect the world's population, and it definitely doesn't reflect the main patient populations. And so even if you don't want a ton of data, and even if you're not working on something that's going to be in the clinic, you want your data to actually reflect humans and the patient population. So obviously, if we can use data from other institutions worldwide more easily, then it could be better to properly diversify our data sets, and that can ensure that we can better serve the world's population, right? Because we want our science to reflect the actual population. The final one, and this might come as a surprise for you if you're a machine learning researcher, but you know how you guys can all compare your results on maybe MNIST or a certain set of ImageNet? We don't necessarily have the same large data set to all test on. We do have some large data sets, but they don't serve what everybody wants to work on. And often our research is very topic specific, right? And so another reason why these tools might be really useful is to compare our results at conferences and in papers. So when I was working on age prediction from your brain images, I could see what other researchers had for their accuracy on their data sets, but I had no way to compare my results because I couldn't access their data set, and I didn't know how theirs performed on my data set. And it seems like a really simple problem, but it would take a very long time for me to try to get access to that data set just to test. So we end up comparing apples to oranges a lot. And so with, for example, PySift, I could just contact that group and quickly test my model on their data set, and I would never need to have a copy of their data. So if you are interested in learning these tools, there are extensive tutorials full code demos, especially on the blog. There are a lot of like use case examples, and they really guide you through and teach you how to learn these tools, especially PySift. There are a lot of PySift tutorials. Andrew Trask, the leader of OpenMind, also did an Udacity course where you can then learn everything that I talked about in this talk and more. It goes much more in depth, obviously. And if you're interested in getting involved with OpenMind, there are actually a lot of ways that you can join the community. It's a huge community, and it's roughly split into, I would say, 3 groups. So dev teams, research teams, and community. So in the dev teams, I know the font is quite small, but I hope you guys can see this. There are a lot of different projects going on. So a huge range. So there's web and mobile, there's cryptography projects, there's more NLP focused, and there's the whole differential privacy team. There's also people working on more like private identity, so that's the self-sovereign identity stuff. Huge range. And that's all ranges from a lot of volunteers, and then some of the positions then get funded by grants. There's also a research branch, and so that involves research scientists from academic institutions around the world, and then they get paired with research engineers who are devs in the community, and they then work with them on their projects. And this is really cool because it's a great way to get into research especially if graduate school is something that you're interested in, and also it's a real research example of all the stuff that you're working on. It's a really, really great way to learn things and like actually apply your knowledge. And then finally, there's the community, which kind of holds everything together. So for example, there's a design team and they make graphics. The writing team, I run the writing team, they write all the blog posts, and the design team makes graphics also for the writing team. There's also a subset of the writing team that just does inline documentation. So obviously when you're a huge open source community, you want to have good documentation in your code. And so if you really like writing good documentation, you can totally just do that. And then of course there's the mentorship team. And this is such an important team. And it's actually I would say the lowest barrier to entry. Like you don't really need any background knowledge about privacy or anything to be involved with that. And basically the mentorship team, you just have to be friendly and you just welcome people into the community and help them find a project that fits with their interest. It's a huge, huge community, and this helps people not get lost in the Slack when they join. So if you're just a friendly person who enjoys responding to people's messages, being a mentor is a really great place to start and get to know the community. So finally, thank you so much to all the contributors. These are just some of the faces of the core contributors here and all the members of the OpenMind community. And you can join us at slack.openmind.org and find all of our projects on GitHub. I'm also happy to, also on the GitHub, you'll see a welcome package, and that can give you a little bit more information about all this if you're interested. And I'm happy to answer any questions about how to get involved or what graduate school is like, or my own research or my own journey or life, and also medical imaging and science research, or Oxford in general. Thank you. Okay, now I'll try to get back over here, stop sharing, and I'll go back on video. Okay.
So thank you, Emma.
And the slides worked?
Yeah, it did work. We actually, understood the importance of privacy preservation in medical imaging. Good. And one huge congratulations for the great amount of numbers at OpenMind Slack group. And just to let you all folks know, I'm also a part of the community. I belong to the writing team and Emma leads it. And it is really a great community. You have mentors and they guide you with every step and every help that you need. You get your answers then and there is what I would say. And that is all we need for beginners, right? So Emma, we will now move on to questions. We'll have some questions from the audience for you. So,
should I look through the live comments to answer the questions, or do they show up somewhere?
Yeah, I'll just pop up them for you. You can just simultaneously read. So our first question is from Bhavani.
Yeah, there are a lot of companies. It depends on what application you mean. So for example, your phones work this way. So your text, I think, I know for sure Apple uses this. I'm not sure if Google phones use this. So fact check me. But basically, federated learning is used for a lot of apps now. Basically, instead of sending your text messages all the way back to Apple all the time, they can just train on your phone, and that helps their text predictors. I think this is also used for Siri, especially to train on your own voice, rather than, because obviously there would be a general model that is sensitive to everybody's voices, but then it wants to be more sensitive to your own voice. And I do know of a lot of companies that we're partnering with, actually. For example, Aferis AI is one organization who's doing this for mobile, and their plan is to be on 1 million devices in 2021, which might be a little bit delayed just because of COVID. That was all declared before COVID. But also in the healthcare setting, there are a lot of researchers working on this and trying to implement this for their own, medical imaging research. I'm sure there are lots of healthcare apps that are going to jump on this because that solves a lot of problems for them. If you think about it, it also solves the problem of just moving data around. So for example, we have one really cool demo on the blog, which is using PySift and PyGrid, another library, to do federated learning on NASA turbojet engine data for predictive maintenance. So, for example, if you have to maintain engines and things like that, so you have a bunch of sensors on them all the time, running all the time. And what you can do is you can actually predict when you need to maintain that engine and do some fixing work, which obviously you don't want to do too often because that wastes your time and money, but you don't want to do it and then have the engine break and bust and cause a bunch of problems. So if you have sensors running 24/7, what are you going to do? Ship that data somewhere else all the time? Well, you can just use federated learning and not have to move it all. So there's like a huge range of reasons why it's convenient and
Okay, so just adding to your answer also, Bhavani, so I guess Google is also using federated learning.
Yeah, I figured,
there's a blog called Google AI blog on federated learning. They use it on their Android keypads that we have. So you can just check that out and you'll get more knowledge on it.
Yeah, I think Apple and Google were the companies that kind of paved the way for a lot of this. So
yeah, right. So,
and I know I've listened to a podcast recently. I know that LinkedIn is using differential privacy as well for a lot of their stuff. So yeah, the big companies are on it.
Okay.
Can I join Open Mind? Yes, absolutely. Please join Open Mind, you guys. I was hoping that would be a great outcome of doing this talk. So slack.openmind.org. If you go on there, hopefully you should be, I'll warn the mentorship team that there might be some new joiners coming from this. And if you check out the welcome package, there will be a lot of different ways that you can get involved. If you are totally new to privacy, even if you're new to programming and open source development in general, I would recommend getting involved in the other teams. So for example, the community teams. And that's a really nice way to warm up. Because you honestly learn so much just by being around the community and seeing what's going on and reading the blogs. And actually, one thing that my writing team does a lot is they will use writing a blog post as their way to learn. And I think it's a really great way to learn. Yeah.
So I have a question from my side as well. So you told about differential privacy. So recently I read a paper on differential privacy, and it said it involves addition of noises to the updates that we use in federated learning. So will that cause any difference in the machine learning model or any change in accuracies or running of the model?
Oh, so sorry, is your question, can differential privacy affect the accuracy of the model?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So it really is a trade-off. But also the example of differential privacy that I explained here, it's a very simplified example. There's so much more about it in practice. And there are a lot of different ways to implement it. But yeah, basically, if you were to add a bunch of noise to your data, your model accuracy will just be ridiculous. Like, it'll be stupid, right? And also, if you do achieve kind of so-called perfect privacy, which also depends on the query that you're doing, right? But it then often does you have to question, like, well, does that even mean anything? Like, but does my prediction even mean anything now? But there are researchers who are working on this and finding kind of optimal ways.
Okay, fine. So I'll just have one more question for you from Bhavani.
Yep. Yes. So kind of what I said before. You can start to okay. So one way to contribute to the libraries would be there are always good first issues. So if you go to the GitHub and you look at good first issues, I highly recommend starting there. If you are just generally good at kind of web or app development, I'm sure that there are roles for you there as well, even if you're not, interested in deep learning or privacy. As well, I would say doing inline documentation would be also a nice way to start, to kind of like wrap your head around, and you can basically be partnered with a team then, and they can kind of help you and get you, show you the ropes, basically.
Okay, Emma. So we're done with the audience questions. And by now you must be knowing that it's become a tradition for GDG Chennai to have a rapid fire round with their speakers. Cool. And I'll ask you a few questions. There'll be just 2-3 of them. So are you ready? Okay. So your first question, this is regarding painting that you do. Okay. So how did you develop interest in painting, and what kind of painting do you do?
I developed an interest in painting when I was really lonely one summer because I was doing research and all my friends had left that town. And I do painting on wood with acrylics. Wow. So I use the wood grain to be the sky or the water or anything like that. It's a stress relief technique for me.
Amazing. Really great to know. So we have one more question for you. And since you're a PhD student, any advice for people looking to pursue research in medical imaging?
Definitely. Yeah. There are a lot, well, depending on what your experience level is right now, I would say for me, I volunteered a lot. I volunteered a lot since 2014, I think, was when I started volunteering in a lab, and learned a lot. You learn how to do the scientific method, stats. You kind of learn how to be a scientist. And I think nothing can replace hands-on experience and actually seeing what research is like. And then it really helps you find out if that's something that you enjoy, because it wouldn't be for everybody, but you might really, really love it. So I definitely recommend contacting a lab, trying to volunteer. Or for example, one method might be through the Open Mind Research. You could apply to be an Open Mind Research engineer. And then you get paired with researchers who are actually doing that science. Okay.
So next is the last question. Tell us 3 words or 3 reasons why the folks here should join Open Mind team.
So it's fun. I've really, really enjoyed it. Everybody's very, very kind on there, and especially during lockdown, it's been very nice. Knowledge, you learn a lot, and that's really powerful. And community, it really is like lovely, lovely people, and seeing them every week. I forget that I haven't met some of them in person.
Okay.
Oh, and making a difference. Privacy is so important, and I think privacy techniques are the future of where a lot of our tech is going. I think we'll look back in 5 years, maybe 10, and we'll just think it's absurd that we were just letting our data go everywhere.
Right. Okay. It was great to have you, Emma. Thank you so much, and it was my pleasure to host you here.
Yeah, so, thank you so much.
Yeah, catch you soon. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, people. Oh, I see such exciting comments here. Everyone's pumped up for the next talk. Okay, good. So our next speaker is a full stack developer, a Twitter inspiration for many of us, and a motivator. Even though he says that he's not an influencer, but he really is an influencer to all the developers here. This is the talk that we have all been waiting for. So dear folks, we have Catalin Pit with us to tell us about his journey in web development and inspire us. Over to you, Catalin.
Hey, sorry, my microphone was mute. So I would like to thank everyone for having me and for inviting me to be here. I've never believed someone would be interested in my journey and in myself and things like this. So it's really amazing to see all these people. I hope I'm not gonna bore you to that with my presentation. When I speak, I choose to speak about my journey and about this kind of topics because there are lots of amazing technical tutorials online. So I leave other people who are more experienced than me to teach technical stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do it either. But for now, I just encourage people. I just want to show them that it's possible, that I didn't have a plain journey to programming, that I didn't have a background, and that you can make it. So I would like to start with a small introduction, like who I am. Wait, did the slide change? Because I keep seeing the first slide. Can you let me know if it changed on your screen? Because I keep seeing my journey to web development. Okay, so yeah, it changed. So a bit about myself, who I am, what I do, what I'm going to talk about, why this talk, and things like that. My name is Catalin Pit. I'm 24 years old. I'm a full stack developer engineer for almost a year now. I work mostly with JavaScript and a little bit of Java and many more tools, but this is not the point of the talk. I'm going to talk about my journey to web development, how I started, what was my path, why I did it that way, and things like that. Why I'm doing this talk, like I said in the beginning, and it might inspire some of you. It might bore some of you, hopefully not many of you. It might annoy some of you. Again, I hope not many of you, and I hope it will inspire all of you, and it will spark a bit of motivation in you, because the road to web development, and not only web development, it can be hard and lonely and at times. Again, I want to give my thanks to people organizing this talk and for everyone that watches this talk. I'm deeply grateful for all of you and for this opportunity. It means a lot to have all of you and being interested in myself. So let's go ahead and talk a bit about my early days. So this is a small summary. I was meant to become an accountant, bank teller. I barely passed my maths classes, and I disliked HTML and CSS in high school. So let's jump in. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I can stop through the presentation and answer the question, so you don't forget them. Just ask them in the chat, and the moderator will ask me if it's fine for everybody. Okay, what you might not know about me is that I've studied accounting at high school. I was supposed to become an accountant or a bank teller, one of these two. They were my only two options at the time, and they are very, very far from software development, as you can imagine. I never thought of becoming a developer, but more on this later. Moreover, when I did HTML and CSS at high school, I didn't really like it. Moreover, I disliked it. I didn't find it interesting. I didn't pay attention, and I wish I did. I really wish I did, because if I did, now I would have another journey. But you never know where life takes you, and this was my path. Another thing I want to touch on is mathematics, because I hear so many people saying that, oh, if you don't know maths, you cannot become a software developer. And in my country, or maybe it's a coincidence with the people I've met, they all told me, oh, I want to go into software development, but I'm not good at maths. Or they told me, if you're not good at maths, you're not gonna make it, and all kind of this stuff, which is not true 100%, but it has a seed of truth. You might have encountered this as well. And in my country, there is still this perception. Like I said, the funny thing is that I barely passed my math class. I struggled a lot. It was the only subject at school that I struggled with. I barely passed my classes. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it. This is who I am. That's it. But here I am, a developer, and it doesn't mean if you're not good at maths, you're not gonna make it. Of course, there are areas where you need maths, like, I don't know, data science, possibly. I didn't try it, and many other fields. But in web development, I don't think you need to rock mathematics to be a developer. But again, it depends what you want to do. Maybe you'll need maths in data science, like I said, machine learning and things like that. But it doesn't stop you from becoming a developer, web developer. So a quick recap on my early days. On my way to become an accountant, barely passed my maths classes, disliked HTML and CSS, and still became a software developer. If you have any question regarding this part of the talk, feel free to ask them in the chat. Okay, the defining moment for me was when I moved to the UK. It changed everything. I moved there by a kind of mistake. I went on a holiday to my father, and before returning home to Romania, we were talking about remaining there and studying there and things like that. So we gave it a try, and you'll see what happened. I moved to the UK to 17 years old. Because of my age, they didn't accept me into high school because I was too old, and they didn't also recognize my Romanian qualifications. So it was everything in vain, really. And the only route for me was either go to college, which is not university in UK, or go and work in construction. And I did both, kind of. You'll see later. Okay, I chose to go to the college, and when I went to the college, I had a wide range of choices like biology, I don't know what else, to become a plumber, and all these subjects to choose from. But IT was the most appealing option for me. So because they didn't recognize my qualifications from Romania, I had to do 1 year, to repeat 1 year and do 3 years of college, where I'm not proud to say it, but I didn't learn anything. Okay, I'm lying. I learned English, and that's the only thing I took from college. Otherwise, we only did Microsoft Word, Excel, and nothing related to coding or software development. So it was like kind of 3 years wasted, but that was my only route. So from this subject I studied at college, I could only go to study computer science at university. So no other subject. I couldn't go and study biology, for example. But it was fine because it was something I wanted to do. And I went further to study computer science at university. So yeah, this was my journey. It's not finished yet, don't worry. And what I want to touch here is that not everybody has to do a computer science degree. I didn't. When I did it, it was because it was my only path. I didn't really know about programming back then very much, and I wasn't interested in. The spark happened when I started computer science at university. In my first classes where we coded in Java, I was instantly fascinated and I loved it. And I knew it's what I wanted. But this doesn't apply for everyone. Some people might go on the self-directed way, where they teach themselves how to code without formal qualification, and each way is fine. If you want to do a degree, do a degree. If you want to go and get a job without a degree or professional qualification, do it that way. In the end, from my point of view, all that matters is your skills and how you code. I don't think a piece of paper tells very much about you. But this is just my opinion. If I had to go to university again, I would probably wouldn't do it. But this is just my opinion. So it depends what you want to do. So let's talk about my university days a bit. First year troubles, thinking about giving up, finishing with the highest degree. So like I said previously, I wouldn't do this again, and I'm a little bit biased because of what happened in university and all the struggles I had to go through. In my first year of university, my mother almost passed away, and I went through a horrendous period. I couldn't go to university and learn for my exams, so I was really prepared to drop out of university because I thought I'm gonna fail all my exams. However, I managed to save my year in the last minute by cramming as much as possible for my exams. Okay, I passed the first year, and then into the second one, I had a very bad imposter syndrome. I thought I'm not made for this. I've seen people achieving like top grades. I've seen people passing achievements with top grades. I've seen people building like amazing web apps for their skill level, for being a student. So it was a horrible period in the second year as well. And in my last year of university, which is the third year, I suffered the worst burnout and anxiety of my life. And this is another topic I want to touch on, because I don't know, but my mistake was believing that in this industry you have to learn 100% of the time. You always have to code, you always have to learn, you have to learn everything that comes out, you have to memorize everything, you have to be basically a computer. As a result, I spent all my holidays, all my free time doing courses online and learning. I ignored my health, my mental and physical health, my family, my wife, and my hobbies, basically everything. I was just like a little robot, constantly doing tutorials and learning to have an edge when I finish university, to be as good as possible. And I can tell you it's not worth it, because I'm still recovering from the burnout and anxiety. But now I changed my perception. I don't want to be a super developer anymore. I don't care about learning everything, about memorizing everything. Now I'm more balanced, and this is just my story. I've seen some people being able to code non-stop after work, before work, and things like that, but I don't think that's the norm, and I don't think a lot of people can do that, but everyone to their own. So yeah, I felt so weird and bad that I thought I'm surely losing my mind, and whoever had anxiety can relate to this maybe. I worked to exhaustion to achieve good grades, and if I'm honest, it wasn't worth it, because nobody cares that much about my grades and about my university degree. So it was more for my ego, honestly. From my point of view, it's not worth trading your health and life for work. But this is just my opinion, and maybe I took it to extreme because I was very scared of not making it, and who knows, but this is my opinion. In the end, I achieved the highest degree with excellent grades, but I wouldn't do it again. And and I don't recommend it. If you have a similar experience, or if you struggle with anxiety or burnout or things like that, or with the imposter syndrome, I'm more than happy to chat. Drop a question in the live chat, and if you want to talk further, I can reopen my direct messages on Twitter, and we can talk. I vote to help people when I get over this, so they don't go through the same struggles. What else? I did lots of odd jobs before programming. I was a supermarket volunteer, dishwasher, construction worker. When my first, not really job, because it wasn't a job and I wasn't paid for it, but I was a supermarket volunteer. I basically was assigned to checking stock and applying stock in a supermarket like Tesco, for example, if you heard about Tesco. So that's all I did for my summer. Then during my university days, I worked as a dishwasher in a restaurant. And the funny thing is that I even got called lazy because I didn't wash washes as fast as they wanted, but that's another story. And also I used to work in construction for 3 years, basically during the university period. And yeah, I didn't always have a glamorous job, but I'm happy this was my route with these jobs, because I learned many skills at this job, which I apply to software engineering. You might ask yourself, what can you learn from those jobs? For example, from my construction days, I learned how to work in a team, how to organize yourself on your team. I learned about communication skills in my supermarket role, because you have to interact with customers, you have to be diplomatic. From being a dishwasher, I learned that sometimes I have to do jobs that I don't enjoy, which applies to programming as well, because I don't always enjoy what I'm doing. Or yeah, this was my journey, and you can see I didn't have a background or anything. And this is the end. I didn't want to make this one too long, so I didn't want to bore you, because it's already 4 days of this conference, and I want to be able to talk more with you. I want to learn more about you. I want to answer your questions. So I didn't want to talk about myself for 30 or 40 minutes and to bore you. So my journey to software development wasn't an easy one, but overcoming that many obstacles is similar to programming, where you have to overcome the barriers on a daily basis. It made me stronger and more thankful for what I have. Thank you for listening to me. I really appreciate it. I hope you took something. I hope I motivated you a bit. I hope I've shown you that not everybody codes from 14 years old and has an internship at Google and Facebook by 16 years old. I hope you understood that you don't have to code every day. You don't have to kill yourself for a job or for programming. And the moral of this story is that really anyone can become a software developer if they want. And I'm not saying this just to please everybody, but I think this is the truth. Of course, not everybody is going to work at Google or Facebook or NASA or whatever big company, but anyone can get a decent job and do a decent job as a programmer. As a matter of fact, I'm not the best programmer, and I'm totally fine with it. I don't see myself as not even a very good developer, so I'm good with this. I'm waiting for your questions. Like I said, I want to talk more with you and less about me, so I'm open to your questions.
Okay, thank you, Catalin. I'm sure everyone has got a lot of things to learn from your talk, and it was really motivating and encouraging. We have a lot of fans for you here with a lot of questions from the audience. So I'll just pop them one by one. You could read and answer them.
Let's see. Where do you find your drive to keep going? How do you stay focused? Where are you on the treadmill of work? How do I find my drive to keep going? If it depends. If it's for work, obviously money, and because I like programming. If it's on my Twitter side with helping others, it's like an infinite drive. And I think Danny knows this, because when you help other people, you get a different kind of motivation and drive. And when you see that you helped someone else, you just feel, I don't know, an amazing sense of achievement. How do you stay focused? The thing is, I'm not always focused. When I can stay focused and when I feel it's too much, I just take a break from everything, from work, from my Twitter stuff, from my side projects. So yeah, learn when to rest. Yeah. Here again, I think I might be biased, but I think for software development, the best skills are soft skills. For example, how do you communicate with others? How well do you work in a team? How willing are you to help others? In my opinion, the technical skills can be learned. Yes, you might have a knack for it and you can learn them faster than others, but soft skills are something that are very hard to learn. And I think nobody wants to work with a superstar developer who cannot work in a team. So my advice is to work on your soft skills if possible. Sometimes it's yeah. Apart from lol, I'm not a Twitter icon. I'm just helping others. I enjoy to go off-road a lot. I love my quads and my Jeep. This is very relaxing, going into the woods with my friends and just break some mud.
Okay.
From the community, what's your current side projects? I don't want to talk about this, but I'll do it. So I was thinking of building an application that connects code newbies, for example, like a Tinder app, but not like for the emotional stuff. For example, let's say I want to learn AWS. You are good at AWS, but you want to learn Python, and I'm good at Python. So we can exchange skills, because as you know or not know, it's easier to learn when you have a partner and learn from each other. Which is your first step in your life to learn programming? I don't really understand this question, but the first time I learned programming was in university in a programming class. We had to write the classic hello world in a Java program. And if you talk about what to choose, when you want to start with programming, first look at the areas like iOS development, web development, I don't know, things like that. Don't jump straight to web development, because it might not be for you. Find your area. because he motivates me a lot to keep pushing. I don't know, this guy is something else. I thought I'm motivated and things like that, but this guy is an alien. I don't know. He's crazy. So I recommend following Danny on Twitter. And if you really want to see the people I love following, you can look at my following list.
Absolutely.
Which is not always. Yeah.
A big hi to you from GDG Chennai. We do follow you as well, and you are also an inspiration to most of the developers here who have joined us on the live chat. A big welcome to you too.
Yeah. With burnouts, it's in essence it's pretty simple, but it's not. So I would say to avoid it, because it takes months to heal from it and to become functional again. I struggled badly. And how do I deal with procrastination? Honestly, this might sound like a lie, but I don't procrastinate. If I want to do something, I do it. If not, I just relax and take it easy. if you push yourself too far and don't take care of yourself and don't rest enough, you'll procrastinate. So find the balance.
Right. Absolutely true. Okay, then I see that we are done with the questions from the YouTube live. And like you would have seen our previous speakers, we are doing a rapid fire chat with the speakers to make it very general, to have a very general talk with them. So I'll be asking you around 3 questions. So hoping you're ready for it.
Let's see.
Right. Okay, no problem. So your first question is, what are the 3 words of motivation you would give to coding newbies?
3 words.
Of motivation.
Okay. Code. because there's no better way to get better at programming if this what we are talking about.
Right. That is true. Practice makes the man perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So our second question is that we know you like JavaScript, but can you tell us 2 reasons why not to use JavaScript?
2 reasons not to use JavaScript. Okay, this is a tough one because I can only think of reasons to use it. I need to think a bit. First of all, it's not the best choice for many fields, even if we see that it's very versatile. And secondly, what else? It might be tricky to work with it if you don't understand it like properly.
Yeah, it is kind of tricky for newbies, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a last question for you from our side. It says, have you got any chance to have an Indian dish before, South Indian especially?
Sorry, can you repeat again because I didn't hear properly?
Have you got the chance to taste Indian dish before? Any dish from India?
Yeah. How is that called? Because in London we have many amazing Indian restaurants. We have that. It's something with curry. It's very nice. It's vegetarian.
Okay.
With curry, but I cannot remember the name. But it was very good. Yeah, I like your food.
Awesome. Thank you. Catalin, it has been my great pleasure to have you on board and introduce you to all of them here. We have a great fan following here for you. Thank you so much for taking out time. See you soon.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope it was useful. I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Yes. Thank you so much, Catalin. So over to you.
Sorry? Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that mistake I did just a few minutes ago. Sorry about that. So you both were talking and then I just interrupted sharing my screen. I apologize for that. So I hope you had a great session today, and the last session was really amazing. And I was like, it was fascinating to see how Catalin actually, like entire journey of Catalin was quite inspiring as well. And I hope this will help you to understand it's like there is nothing that can stop you from doing what you really want to do. So there is no official degree is required to being a developer. So as he said, to be a good developer, you just code, and that's really nice to see. I hope you enjoyed your day entirely, like whatever sessions we had related to security, and then the Naren's talk, as well as the other folks' talk, Emma's talk, and then finally the Catalin's talks. So thank you so much for attending this conference, and the 4 days been so amazing, like a variety of speakers sharing different knowledge on a different domains, and it's pretty amazing to see all of you to be here, and this empowers us and motivates us to conduct more and more sessions, so that we learn together and grow together, and that's how we grow. So I have a very small token of appreciation to like how we actually did the entire conference, and it's not only one person's responsibility to run a conference or a community, and it's the entire team. So I would like to thank everyone who were here. So let's meet our team, the integral part of this success story. So we have a Praveen, Balaji, Praveen, Karan, and you can, if you want to connect with them, you can connect through their LinkedIn. And the following link is for their LinkedIn. And these folks, were amazing in doing all sort of things, including designing, logistics, maintaining the scripts, and then entire thing coming to meetups. And we also have Niveda, Bhavani, Jui, and Madhura for hosting us. And again, we have other folks, Arvind, Udyot, Naveen, Narendra, and Som, Swati, and Varun. So I would say it was a great day for me, and the conference at the end, but really we have many more sessions to come, and I really hope we got a lot of new folks joining through the YouTube stream, and I was really happy to see all the folks who are it's damn excited to see all of you. So thanks a lot for joining again. So if you want to join and become our member, you can just go to this URL. And before moving or before doing anything else, I would also like to thank our sponsors, which is HandySense. So they are a SendGrid partner. So the quiz winners who won the game so far for all the quiz and activities, they're gonna get some coupons, and that is being sponsored by HandySense. So thank you, HandySense, for this. And we are really looking forward all of you to join this community and share your knowledge. So you can do this, as well as you can join our Slack channel, which is mentioned here, bit.ly/join GDG Chennai, to join our Slack channel. And to just share the feedback as well. And we have the feedback link here down, so you can share your feedback, any improvements, any suggestions for doing things. And also, if you want to do a talk in GDG Chennai, just drop an email to us. It's gdgchennai@gmail.com, and we would be happy to have you as a speaker. So thank you so much again. And apart from that, if you have any questions, you can type in comment section, or you can also tag in to Twitter, and we have group there as well. Thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for joining us. And if you want to tweet about the event, please share your experience with the hashtag mentioned.